welcome to the Wildline podcast. I'm your host, Dan. This is a podcast about movies and how much money they make at the box office. So we're going to do a short episode today. I'm going to try and start, in the past, I've done 2 episodes in a week. I want to try and keep that up now. On Sunday afternoon, I'll do a little bit of a box office review, what happened over the weekend as those Sunday estimates come in the door. And then Wednesday or Thursday, today's Thursday, I'm going to post a little preview of what's coming out this weekend and maybe make some very, I was going to say very educated guess, but it's more like a very tenuous guess, a very shot in the dark guess about how these movies are going to do. So let's just get the ball rolling with this. It is going to be an interesting weekend. Right, last weekend was kind of underwhelming, I would say. I expected Blade Runner to do very well. A lot of people expected it to do very well. Tracking was in the 40s. I was thinking 60s plus, maybe 70 opening weekend. I completely misread the sort of popular culture take or popularity of Blade Runner. I know in my group of friends and the people that I know and the people I've met over my entire life, I'm in my mid 30s. Everybody that I know that's sort of into film loves Blade Runner, like not even just sort of like a little, it's kind of a weird sort of nerd worship icon thing. And I thought that would translate out to other people into the broader nerd culture, which is now popular culture. They've crossed over with each other, which was not the case 15, 20 years ago. So I'd assume that something that was really big in sort of the old school nerd world would translate to the younger people, and it didn't. Basically nobody under the age of 25 went to go see it. I forget what the percentage was, but I want to say it was like only 14% of the tickets sold were to people under 25. So it was definitely people my age. The over 25 male quad was way overrepresented, and not a lot of the other groups of people wanted to see it. So unfortunately, it only took in about $32 million. It's been doing okay this week. It did like 3-4 million each sort of day, and I think that bodes well for, I hope, longer legs. The problem is that and maybe this won't be the case, but I feel like Thor, when it comes out, it's going to destroy everything. It just has that feel to it. Like, it's just a very hyped movie. It'll be the first, I think, massive box office opening since It, which was early September. So it would have been 2 months since It. I feel like it's going to open to, tracking said 90 to 100, I believe. Just came out yesterday, because we're at that 3-week mark. So it's going to be massive. I think it'll hurt Blade Runner. But maybe the demo is too kind of older for it to really get destroyed and smothered. The whole point of this is I hope that Blade Runner can keep its legs up, and get to the $112 million for its domestic take. If it does that, they're still going to lose a ton of money. We're talking they're still going to lose about at least 100 million. I'm just waiting for the Deadline article to come out that says how much it's actually going to lose based on their inside sources. But I would say Blade Runner is going to lose at least $100 million for the studios involved. I think it's Alcon's going to really take the hit, because I think they financed most of it. Sony and Warner Brothers were sort of minor stakes. But so, that's coming into its second weekend. So I think it's going to be pretty quiet. It did 32 last weekend. It's had a good run this week. It's one of those movies that's not going to drop a ton, just because people probably waited to see it. It's not the type of movie that I think, unless you're like a fanboy like I am, you're probably not going to rush to see on opening weekend. You're kind of going to wait a week or two, especially with older people. When I say older, I mean over 25, because that's how it's split up, right? The demographics in the industry. Anybody over 25, they have other things going on. They have kids. They have jobs, so they can't necessarily rush out and see a movie. So any movie that plays older tends to have a little bit better legs, especially if it's high quality, which Blade Runner, I think, is, according to the critics. In my mind, it was not great. So, if you're thinking, let's just bump it up to 33, what it was this last weekend, just about. If it does a 50% drop, which is fairly normal, to 16.5, I think it could drop only about maybe 40, I think. And I think that's possible. And so that could put it at like almost like a 20 for the weekend. And let's see where that's going to put it. So I think it's going to have a pretty low drop. I don't think it's going to go below 40% in terms of its drop, but I do almost guarantee you it's going to go below 50%. But it does have some competition this weekend. So let's get into the competition and see what's coming up here. I don't think it's going to win. Blade Runner is going to win the weekend again. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think its stiffest competition is going to be Happy Death Day. And this is from Universal. It's a horror film. It looks like it's kind of a mixture, also from Blumhouse. So it's a Universal Blumhouse sort of partnership. We all know how Blumhouse does. I mean, they make these movies for, this one was made for $4.8 million. That blows my mind because you see the trailer, it looks like a $20 to $30 million kind of higher end horror film, but it's clearly not. For $4.8 million, that's amazing. But that's their specialty. Blumhouse just knows how to do this, right? They know how to make these tiny movies. It's the same production budget as Get Out, which was also a Blumhouse Universal sort of pairing up. I don't think they're going to repeat that type of success. They're cashing in on tomorrow's Friday the 13th. So I forgot about that. So I'm totally gonna watch some Freddy in the background while I'm working tomorrow. Not Freddy, idiot. Jason, sorry. And so it's opening. Happy Death Day is opening on about 3,150 screens. And just to give you an idea of what other people are saying, I didn't see the tracking pop up, but Box Office Mojo, who I think probably has the best guesses, they're the most in-depth and well-written, I would say. They actually take into account like things like number of theaters. Like, it sounds obvious, but like other people that do this sort of stuff, I don't know what their deal is. They're getting paid to do something, but it's not accurately predict this stuff. They're saying 18 million for Happy Death Day, so that could put it pretty close to Blade Runner, depending how Blade Runner drops, right? If it drops a ton, I think Happy Death Day won't have a problem, right? I think Happy Death Day is going to do a significantly better than that. Variety's saying for Happy Death Day about 15 to 20 million. I don't know, I guess because it's opening on lower theaters, like let's just like assume, I guess those are both kind of right in this sort of same area. Let's just assume it does the 18 million that Box Office Mojo is telling us it's going to do. And let's get the per theater average on that. That would put it at about $5,700. That actually doesn't seem that terrible to me. For some reason, when I saw 18 million, I was like, that seems pretty low. But they're just not pushing it out to 4,000 theaters. So it's going to have to make a significant amount per theater to get it up to that 18-20 range. I feel like it still might be low just because it is Friday the 13th and horror has been so massive this year with Split and Get Out, and of course the juggernaut of It. I mean, it's just a horror year, it really is. It's really changed the whole genre this year. And the sort of the business aspirations of the brand, I think for a long time, horror was always considered like, and Wes Craven and George Romero always said this, it was sort of like the gutter of Hollywood. And like they kind of let you do whatever you wanted if you're a creative type, a director or a writer, but they're never going to give you more than 10 million bucks to make a movie. And you're gonna have to sort of kick and scream to get that 10 million. That's something, horror directors have always sort of, especially the legends, have always not necessarily complained about, but basically said, George Romero specifically, when you hear the story about how they made Night of the Living Dead was basically all just them, and then he had that huge hit, one of the biggest movies of that time period in the late 60s, and then he couldn't get any money to make Dawn of the Dead, and it was sort of like every movie he was making was just super hard to finance because for whatever reason the studio system just didn't see horror as a super consistent massive moneymaker. I think this year changed that all. Certainly, there have been exceptions over the years. Like Interview with the Vampire was a big hit. Scream, of course, and then Paranormal and Blair Witch. But they always seem to be exceptions, right? There's never sort of that consistent $200 million a year horror film, right? I think it changed the ballgame, completely changed the ballgame. So horror is now a little bit more of a respected, established genre for the blockbusters. But Happy Death Day doesn't really fit into that. Happy Death Day is definitely the old school, kind of reminds me of stuff that would come out in the mid-90s of the Dimension sort of imprint studio. But that all being said, because horror has sort of had a really popular year and people are really hungry for it, and the trailers were good, I don't know if they've released. Oh, and it's almost fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I thought it was going to be pretty, have pretty poor reviews. It looks like it's at 67% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. With about 6,000 people on the want to see score, that's pretty low in terms of that sort of audience hype for it. I thought it was gonna get like a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's a decent horror film. They also, remember, on Rotten Tomatoes they tend to skew down. The critics tend to not cut horror films many breaks, so the reviews tend to be a little bit lower than the audience satisfaction score. So it could have come in at like a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes in terms of the critics, but the audience is probably going to come at like a 70. That's just the nature of the genre, along with comedies. So this one seems like it's an okay movie. I would be concerned about that low want to see score. Rotten Tomatoes, only 6,000 people. I don't know. It doesn't look great. Let's see what Box Office Pro has to say for themselves. They're saying $20 million for Happy Death Day. That's sort of in line with what everybody else. I feel like sometimes they just copy each other. Like the first person posts their preview number, and they're like, everybody else just kind of wants to hop on. I kind of want to see what Hollywood Reporter has to say about it. But I'm thinking right now, that 5,000. I always go off per theater average because that to me gives me a better feel or a more accuracy when judging sort of the hype for a movie. It doesn't even look like Hollywood Reporter put up a box office preview for this weekend. Are you kidding me? These lazy SOBs. Oh no, they did. They also have the tracking number up for Thor, which is 90 to 100 million on its opening weekend. Very good reviews so far on social media for Thor. I don't know if that's all puffed up bullshit from fanboys or not. And of course, Hollywood Reporter basically copies Variety, saying 15 to 20. I feel like the $5,700 per theater average feels a little bit low. I'm gonna bump that up to 7,000 and see what that gets. So 7,000 per theater on 3,150 theaters, 22. So that's what I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess about 22 million bucks. I think it's gonna break out a bit. A lot of people were saying, like on the nerd forums, oh man, this could do like really well. And they're saying like 30s maybe. I don't know. I guess I was on that train last weekend after Blade Runner was doing so poorly, but I just don't see that happening now. It's just not enough theaters, I could be totally wrong though. We'll see how the preview numbers come in tomorrow morning. They'll come in around 10 a.m. And if it's over $1 million, $2 million, then this thing, sky's the limit for Happy Death Day. So I'm going to say 22 million for that. The other big opener is The Foreigner. This is the Jackie Chan action thriller from STX. STX is kind of a newer studio. They have a lot of Chinese money involved in their studio. They put out Bad Moms, which did very well. They put out The Gift, which I thought was a really interesting play for them. They put out Valerian, but I think Europa. No, actually, I think STX is going to take a huge loss on that, along with Europa, but it's kind of like a joint venture. They put out The Boy, The Bye Bye Man. So they don't put out all winners. They put out The Circle, which I thought was actually pretty good. Despite the critics just destroying that film. I don't know what movie they were watching. I was like, this looks fine. Like it's a fine sort of fear tech movie. Like it was fine. I mean, I don't know. Emma Watson's a decent actress, and Tom Hanks is great. Any event, they kind of put out STX is kind of willing to do different things just because they're a newer studio. They need to make their mark. I don't know what they're doing with The Foreigner, to be honest with you. Budget was $35 million. It's a rated R action thriller. You know, Jackie Chan hasn't really been a force in movies for a while. He does a lot of voice acting. He did Kung Fu Panda 3, Nut Job 2, which did terrible. He did all the, the Kung Fu Panda movies, and those, made over $200 million. The first one did. But the last thing that he did on kind of him starring, he was in Karate Kid that did 176. That was 7 years ago. Spy Next Door, I don't even know what that is. Also did about 24 million. Rush Hour 3 did 140 million back in 2007. I feel like that was the last time he was kind of like a force within Hollywood, is probably Rush Hour 3. And like earlier that decade, this is the 2000s, that's when he was really kind of like everywhere. Shanghai Nights did 60 million. These are unadjusted, by the way. Rush Hour 2 in 2001, that was probably the peak of his stardom, did 226 million bucks. So he really hasn't been a big player or a big star probably in about 7 years. I don't know what else he's been doing with his life. Obviously, he's busy with other things. He's probably a little bit bigger overseas with his films. But in the United States, he kind of has been pretty absent for the last 7 years. And so I don't have any idea what this thing's going to do. It's open on 2,500 screens. I've seen very little marketing for it. I just don't know even where to begin with it. So we'll see what the other people say. Box Office Mojo says 10.5 million. That sounds sort of right? How many is that per theater? So if it does 10.5 million, on just about, I'm going to give them 2,500 theaters for that. 4,200 per theater. That seems high to me. I'm thinking more like the low 3,000s per theater. I'll give them a little bump. Let's say 3,200 per theater for The Foreigner on 2,500 screens. That would put it at 8 million. That seems much more, I think, appropriate for that film. I just don't see it doing all that well. Variety says 10 million. And then what does our friends at not Box Office Mojo, at Hollywood Reporter, didn't even give a number. They say low to mid teens. That doesn't make any sense. So they say 12 to 13, 12 to 15. Again, like, who's doing their stuff? Like, I don't know if there's some like hidden Jackie Chan like group of fans that's just been holding out for the last like 7 years, but I don't know. That's not gonna happen. Pierce Brosnan's also in it, but I don't even really see him in the trailers. I don't know. I saw the trailer like 6 months ago. I don't remember it. I'm sticking with my gut. I'm saying below 10 million on that. I'm gonna say $8 million. There's no market for that film. Jackie Chan's not a star anymore. I'll take a look at the director and see if he's got anything. Director did Green Lantern, was his last movie, so he's, did Edge of Darkness, did Casino Royale. Hasn't really had a hit in 10 years. So, he was a big Bond director. That's probably where I got Pierce Brosnan on that. But yeah, I'm gonna say 8 million on that. I don't really think it's gonna do well. I just want to check the reviews real quick. Reviews are what you expect. 60% Rotten Tomatoes. Oh wow, higher wanna see score than Happy Death Day. About 2,000 more people want to see it. Again, I don't know how applicable the wanna see score is. Like, sometimes something, it's when you're near the 10,000 range, I don't even know that translates to. Like, for massive movies, it goes much higher. Like, trying to think of like what's the biggest movie that is coming out in the near future. Usually they go a lot higher than the 10,000 range. Like, let's look at like even like Geostorm coming out not this weekend but next weekend. That's at like 10,000, similar range. Boo 2. I'm looking at the want to see score on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh God, 1,600 people want to see Boo 2 on Madea Halloween. That's terrible. And so, you know, they're kind of all over the place. I guess they don't have Thor up yet. Kind of interested to see what Suburbicon is listed at. About 4,000. It's not too bad for a movie like that. The whole point, I don't know. I have no idea what it translates to. To be honest with you, I have no clue. What's the Snowman with that Michael Fassbender thriller? That's at 8,000. That's higher than I thought. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going on the want to see score. The Foreigner should have a higher per theater average than Happy Death Day. I just don't see that happening. So I don't really know how to use that score, but whatever. I'm gonna keep looking at it and we'll test it out. We'll see how it does this weekend and see how much it really predicts what's happening or what's going to happen and what the audience type is for a movie. Box Office Pro says 10.5 million for The Foreigner. A little higher. I'm gonna stick with my 8 on this. Okay, so those are the two big ones. Open Road Films is putting out a movie, Marshall. And this is about the Supreme Court justice and kind of a biopic. I don't know. I mean, Open Road Films got bought by a Chinese company pretty recently. I'm not even sure whether they're still putting out films. It was basically a failure. I don't even know. It's only playing on 800 theaters. That's bad. They said, I'm not even going to guess, to be honest with you. It's on, Box Office Mojo is saying 3 million. I wonder if the other ones did. Variety saying 5 million, and then Hollywood Reporter saying 3 to 5 million. Who knows? Like, I'd say it does 3 million on 800 screens. That seems like a pretty 37, almost $3,800 per theater. That seems okay, I guess. I don't know. It's not even really that interesting. I mean, why are you releasing a movie in 800 theaters? Like, doesn't make any sense. Like, push it out. If you want to do an art film release, push it out in like 20 theaters, 30 theaters, and just see how it does. Or since it's it's focused on the African American demo, maybe they're just pushing out to theaters in African American parts of the country. I don't know. I have no idea what the thought process is there. But Open Road Films is basically non-existent company anymore, and they have no idea what they're doing. They failed horrifically over the last few years, so I doubt that they have any sort of strategy as to what's going on with this. They're probably looking for maybe an Oscar or two for that one. I don't know. Speaking of, I'm not even gonna guess on that one. I don't even care that much. I think 3750. You know what? I'm gonna guess. I feel like it's gonna do. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt since it's gonna do 4,000 per theater, just because it kind of looks like a good movie. I'll put it at 3.2 million just to make an official guess. The one movie that really confused me, it's coming out from Annapurna. That's the Megan Ellison studio. They put out Detroit as Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. Now, I don't even really know what this is about. It's got Rebecca Hall, Luke Evans, Connie Britton. What are people saying about this one? Professor Marston, the Wonder Woman. It's on 1,200 screens. But why? Why are you putting this on 1,200 screens? Box Office Mojo is saying 3 million, so that's a pretty low per theater average. Let's see if the other people even put out a guess. I don't see a guess here from Variety. Yeah, they don't even put a guess up. That's how little they care about this movie. Hollywood Reporter is saying the same, 3 to 5 million for Marshall and Professor Marston. I don't know much about it. I saw the trailer. It looks like a very, very strange filmed release. Were they trying to piggyback off the success of, or the perceived success of Wonder Woman? Because obviously the film had been shot in the can before Wonder Woman came out. I don't know. So they're saying if it does 3 million on that many screens, it's actually 1,229 theaters to be exact. They're saying a $2,440 per theater average. That's super low. Like that's like disastrously low for a film opening wide. I don't even know what the audience is for this. I could not tell you what the audience is for this, because you think about it, it's like, it's not really an art film. So the art film people aren't going to go see it. And if it was, why are you releasing it wide first? Why aren't you releasing it on limited in Los Angeles or New York? See how it does, then expand out to the different sort of cities. Maybe there's a comic book sort of DC fan element here that's going to go see this. Or maybe, women are just super into Wonder Woman and they're interested in everything about her. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like I have a real good play here. I think the 3 million is pretty low though, right? For a wide release, and it's only going to do 24 or 2,000, basically $2,500 per theater. That's super low. I'm gonna be crazy and say it's gonna be even lower. And this is not against Wonder Woman or anything like that, so don't call me a sexist or anything. I just don't think it's a really good idea to have put this film out wide first. Let's look at the quality real quick, because I wonder if there is an awards element to this film. Maybe they're trying to just put it out there, and because it's so good, it'll just, I don't know. It's got 91% Rotten Tomatoes. It's going to be certified fresh. Fact-based tale that's fascinating enough to overcome its occasionally uneven telling. God, it's just such a strange movie to put out. It is playing here in Tennessee, I'll tell you that much. And a superhero origin tale unlike any other. Sorry, I'm like reading the synopsis to you. I apologize. I don't know. I think it's going to go low. I'm going to say 1,800 per theater. I know that's maybe insulting to people. I feel like there's zero audience for this film. And that would put it at 2.2 million. So below anybody else, but I don't know. I just don't see an audience at all. So those are the new releases this weekend. Nothing too crazy. I do think Happy Death Day is going to do pretty well in the $22 million range. I think it's going to be higher than what people are saying. I think Foreigner is going to come below what the projections are from everybody. I'm saying 8 million for that. Then Marshall and Professor will fight it out for the bottom, even though Professor's on, 500 more screens than Marshall. So that's the weekend. I don't want to keep this thing going on too long. We'll see how everything does. I'll be back on Sunday. The week after, it's even more crowded. Geostorm, Only the Brave, Tyler Perry Boo 2, The Snowman. It's gonna get really crowded. And then it's a weird end to the month because it's really crowded. A lot of stuff's opening this weekend. We got 5 more films next weekend opening wide, and then 4 more films opening the week after going wide, and then we run into the Thor on November 3rd. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting in October. Blade Runner really did not kick off things very well. Maybe these films will make up for it. I just get the feeling that the box office is going to be pretty depressed here until Thor. I don't think we're going to have any huge breakouts that I see. The only breakout I can really see in the next couple of weeks is probably going to be Happy Death Day, but it's not enough screens to really do any damage. Maybe Geostorm. I don't know. I don't know. I thought those movies were kind of over. People are kind of making fun of, or people are going to go see it ironically because it's so absurd and stupid. I might go see it because it looks so stupid, just because it'd be like a fun time. But I think everything is going to be pretty quiet until Thor comes out, and then we're in the holiday season, right? Then it's just the weekend after is Daddy's Home 2. We're on the Orient Express. Then we hit Justice League, and then we're only like a month away from the new Star Wars. In any event, thanks for listening, guys. This is the Wildline Podcast. I will be back on Sunday to talk about the weekend results. Have a good one.